Time I recognize Mr. Bridentine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and just really like to thank the panel. I firmly believe we do have an opportunity to advance rocket science and space technology in the private sector, in many cases, apart from the whimsical budgets of us politicians. And what you guys are doing in that area is unique and special, and you're really leading the way, and I appreciate that very much. What I'd like to ask Mr. Witt, part of your testimony, you talked about ITAR and some of the regulations that are affecting the commercial spaceflight industry, maybe space tourism. Would you share with us a little bit about how ITAR is affecting the businesses and the industry at the Mojave Air and Space Port?
Sure. Mr. Bridentine. Got that right?
Yes, sir.
ITAR. If you have a rocket and you have a human attached to that rocket, you're born into ITAR. So you're regulated by the International Treaty on Arms regulations. The developers at Mojave, let's just put a name to them, Maston, X-Corp, and Virgin Galactic, all seek to make their industry a worldwide industry. They want to take American products and extend them around the globe. One of those investors happens to be an international investor, Sir Richard Branson. So isn't it ironic that an international investor developing a system in the United States, currently under current law, can't fly it outside the United States? I believe we have grown up in a new day. There are new products. We have agreements all around the world with nations that want to explore space for peaceful purposes. Space tourism is a great example. If I could choose a location where I would like to fly a suborbital space flight, I'd like to fly through the Aurora Borealis out of northern Sweden. It's fast. Why not? Fly it at night. Do something that no one else has done, like Mr. Tito suggests. This is what's possible. But unless we find some relief on the ITAR regulations and really crack that can open and take a look, I don't think we're going to be able to extend these things internationally, and we need to. It's good for American business.
When you think about the market for whether it's space tourism or private space suborbital science experiments and exploration, that market exists in large part outside our own country. While it does exist in our own country, could you give maybe an example of how big that market would be if we were able to take that market outside the United States?
The Tory Group is a great place to ask that question. I'm not expert in that, but I do know the studies are out there and the numbers exist, and I would recommend to the committee that you ask for that, maybe through the CSF. But it is a market. Like Mr. Tito said, if we don't provide the services, they're going to buy the services from providers that are willing to provide the services. They're out there. Right. I think we need to be in the game in all corners, and I think you're not trying to find relief. I totally agree with Mr. Rohrbacher's comments, but ITAR is more than a speed bump as currently written.
When you think about investment in the private spaceflight industry, we think about high net worth investors. Can you share what is the resistance, or is there resistance to receiving investment from institutional investors? Is that is it happening? Is it slow to happen? Can you share a little bit about that?
I don't have any examples of that currently. The majority of my tenants are the high net worth investors. Some institutional investing is starting. For years, we'll have an industry when we have an underwriter, right, and we have Wall Street. We're starting to show signs of both. But I think it took some successes, and namely by SpaceX, now Orbital Sciences, now Boeing. It's going to take new day, new players in the system showing enormous successes to start drawing in the more institutional, conventional investment. And I think it's beginning to happen.
And of course, indemnification, which you guys are very interested in, is a key piece of attracting that kind of institutional investor. Is that correct?
It brings certainty to the game, absolutely. And sure. I think that we look to the government to be a good partner. We can't keep moving the goalposts or changing the rules. The indemnification regime is sound policy. It's worked.
Right.
And the operators have the skin in the game first, and then the government's portion has never been used.
Roger that. Thank you. I yield back.